Okay. We will start under council business. Johnson County Public Library update. Hi.
Hey there. Passing that down. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lisa Littner, the Library Director for the Johnson County Public Library, and I'm just happy to share with you some year in review updates and some upcoming programs. Included in your handouts is our 2020 year in review, and then the yellow page is just some programs of interest for the next month. And this is our May library guide filled with over 100 programs available, both indoors, or some indoors, some outdoors program, and some on Zoom. So we just want to share with you every year what's going on at the library. Like most organizations, we've shown resiliency navigating through the pandemic. We optimized our curbside service, which was actually available before the pandemic, but lots of people are still utilizing that at some of our locations. And we developed a delivery model, so if anyone's home ill for any reason, we'll also do book deliveries and movie deliveries to your home and pickup as well. We have protective measures in place at every library, so computer use and browsing has been going on for months now. And 2021 has been a year I think we've all been looking forward to. On March 23rd, we held a ceremonial groundbreaking for the new Clark Pleasant Branch, which is on US 31 in the heart of the county in the town of Whiteland. And while growth is continuing to happen there, this library will be a new destination, not just for Whiteland and New Whiteland folks. I really imagine people from all over the county are going to enjoy using this service, the services at this new location. It's going to have lots of flexible meeting room space, a teen center, a robotics learning lab, an adult learning center, an early childhood learning space, and our foundation will be fundraising for a nature trail, a community garden, and well as public arts and other features. Some upcoming programs of interest. This month we launched Walk to Mordor, which is, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, a walk where you can, every Earth mile that you walk is worth 10 of Middle-earth miles. So you only have to walk 179 miles this month and you've walked to Mordor. We're encouraging fun with literacy and exercise. Tonight we have a program on the National Park System. We have a fantastic enthusiast. He doesn't call himself an expert, but he really is one. So if you're interested in national parks, he's got a great presentation and you can still sign up for that via Zoom tonight on our website. We have all sorts of programs and resources I can't possibly tell you all in a few minutes, but I wanted to share that our Explore Summer program, which is our learning program to help mostly students make sure they're learning throughout the summer during out of school time. It is available for all ages. We launched that on May 17th, and that will go to the end of July. And we also added a new magazine collection. So digital downloads of more than 6,500 magazines. And they're in multiple languages. And some of the great titles that you may be paying for right now that you may want to check out, use your library card, download them for free. You can keep them as long as you like. And there's no need to return those like most of our other services are automatically returned when you use them digitally. And if you don't have a library card, let me know. I will get you one. And I'll be here to answer questions. But I also wanted to update that the library is continuing how we can serve Bargersville residents better. We came a few months ago and talked about a 24-hour kiosk. We continued to explore that for several months. We really couldn't find a space we thought would be perfect for it. So we're going to our Plan B, which is a mobile unit where we can bring like a bookmobile filled with books, mobile checkout, have Wi-Fi, and do some scheduled visits. So that's in the works. We're researching that. They do take about 6 to 9 months to customize and get delivered. So hopefully we'll, when we're all maskless and meeting up again, we'll have a bookmobile that will be doing services to different locations in Bargersville. But I'm here to answer any questions if you have them today.
Council, any questions?
Well, thank you so much.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. Okay, under other council business,
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion to extend the emergency paid sick leave to September 30th.
I have a motion to extend the sick leave. Ms. Qualls,
Well, I guess.
Second.
Under the FFCRA. Thank you.
I have a second, Ms. Roll. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. None opposed. Thanks. Okay, next we have ordinance and resolutions. Julie?
Good afternoon. First resolution today is Resolution 2021-04. This is a resolution regarding tax abatement forms 322 and CF1 for CMP trades. So just a little explanation on this one. CMP trades was granted tax abatement by council previously through Resolution 2019-08. And through miscommunication, did not realize that they needed to file their Form 322 and CF1 for their property taxes for this year. So they received their full tax bill from the county and then started contacting myself and the county to figure out how they had to get that tax abatement processed. So this resolution is for the council to consider being respectful of missing that filing deadline. So you're granting them a waiver on that filing deadline. This has been done in the past by our council, and Greenwood and Franklin councils have done this as well.
Yes.
We miss deadlines.
I move to approve resolution number 2021-04.
I'll second.
I have a motion. I'll go ahead.
You reviewed it.
Okay, I have a motion, Ms. Roll, a second, Ms. Cole. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution 21-05. This is a resolution adopting the Johnson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan. And we actually have a representative from Johnson County Emergency Management. Speak much more intelligently on that.
Good afternoon. I'm Stephanie Seasting. I'm the Johnson County Emergency Management Director, and I'm here to ask you to adopt a resolution affirming that you are approving our county's multi-hazard mitigation plan for your town. You had representative at our planning meetings, which once we sent, our plan has been adopted or approved at FEMA, but they're just waiting on all these adoptions from each town and city. And then once that's done, then the town is eligible for any mitigation strategies on the hazards that we identified for our county.
Have any questions, council?
We're putting this together. There's quite a lot of information.
Yes, it is. It's every 5 to 6 years we have to do this. FEMA gives grant money for us to hire contractors because there's no way an EMA office could do this on their own. It's very detailed.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-05, Johnson County Multiple Hazard Mitigation Plan.
I have a motion. This is first reading. Can we
It's a
resolution, so we can just, okay. I have a motion. I have a second. Ms. Moore, all in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. None opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have minutes from the March 30th, 2021 meeting. Any changes or corrections?
Becky, there's just a little, on the clerk treasurer. And the clerk treasurer. Yes. It's just that Jane Brock's control presented to the capital asset policy for financial accounting. Ms. Brock stated that her makertilly in the clerk treasurer's office is to make council aware and request support. Ms. Qualls asked Ms. Brock's for the SBOA requirements and a draft in the clerk treasurer's office on how they plan on working with the department heads for the capital asset policy for the financial accounting.
Okay.
Any other corrections? Or- Right. Does anyone else have any corrections on the March 30th? I know we talked about changing it to continue that time. Yes, and then, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 30th, 2021 minutes with the corrections.
I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Aye.
One abstention, COVID abstention.
4 ayes, and Dustin abstained because he was not here. Sure. So, okay, April 13th minutes.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Ruth Ann.
Ruth Ann, I apologize.
We don't have the April 15th. I didn't receive the April 13th, 2021 minutes.
I
Is it
think
in your packet?
it's in the, they may have not received the printed copy, but she sent it. So,
They were placed in your mailboxes earlier this morning. I was hoping to get it prior to your meeting.
Yeah, it is.
so we'll go ahead and just continue
Yeah.
that until next meeting. We'll put them on the agenda for next meeting, if that's okay. All right. Next, you good, Becky?
Yes.
Okay. Next on the agenda is claims. Does everybody have any questions? Have they reviewed claims?
Move to approve the claims.
Are you good? Do you have any questions? Okay. I have a motion by Ms. Rilla to approve the claims. Ms. Moore, I have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. None. Okay, claims. Okay. Monthly talent and utility budget reports. We just need to review or consensus or there's none, okay. All right, Julie, you're up.
Next, we have Darren Peterson with Peterson Architecture here today to talk to us regarding our selection for our police station project.
Thank you. I didn't realize I had to say anything, but I'm Darren Peterson with Peterson Architecture and Tara Anchor also with Peterson Architecture. And first of all, thank you. We were selected as the architect for the new police station, and we've enjoyed working with the steering committee. They're certainly enjoy when people have opinions, and we get to answer a lot quicker. And we have appreciated that process. It's been a lot of fun. We've met almost every week, even through this pandemic, and we're pretty close. And we solicited proposals for a construction management team. We had 2, which meets the qualifications for competition. We met with the steering committee and went over those. Everybody flipped to the last page, and the prices were about the same. Scope was about the same. Qualifications were about the same. We have worked with both firms, and we worked through that. I don't know if you want to make the recommendation or if you want me to.
Yeah, it's on the cover sheet.
Okay. So you're not necessarily approving the contract as much as picking the team that you want to start negotiating with. And we will look forward to getting this thing built. Any questions for me?
Darren, can you maybe, for our audience, explain briefly what the construction manager role is and how that works?
So the construction manager role is to manage the construction. There are a lot of options and different ways to do this. We discussed as a team construction management at risk, construction manager as an administrator, BOT, design build, the architect running construction, which you never want. But we agreed to I think the model that fit this group the best was the construction manager at risk. So what we will do is take our drawings to a certain point. They will then give you a preliminary price, which we have a number in mind that we're trying to hit through this process. The very first preliminary number scared us all, and we have worked really hard as a team to maintain the level of service in the program and get it closer to the number you want to be at. Then that construction manager will break it out into construction packages, publicly bid it to ensure competition and the fiduciary responsibility of the taxpayers. And then we will start construction. They'll manage the construction. They'll give you weekly or monthly reports, whatever we negotiate. They have an on-site superintendent. They'll probably present to this group more than once and ensure the risk is they got to get it done and on time and on budget of what they promise at the level of where our drawings are done. They're acting as your owner's agent.
And then get it to you for the.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you for helping us with this process. Appreciate it.
Questions?
I'll make a motion to select Hagerman as our construction manager as contractor for the police station project.
I'd like to change your motion, construction manager or CMC. It's not the contractor, but I don't know how it's in your, but you would be recommending them as construction manager at CMC.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve Hagerman as the construction manager as contractor at risk.
Thank you.
For the police station project.
Have a motion, Mr. Freeman, second by Ms. Moore. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Tara.
All right. Next today, I have a representative from Enterprise. We have been discussing our fleet management and ways to improve that and improve our management of that. So we've looked at this as a way to streamline that. So I have a couple gentlemen here to present some information for you. You introduce yourselves.
Fantastic. Good afternoon, Council. My name is Tom Green with Enterprise Fleet Management.
I'm Eric Brady with Enterprise Fleet Management, area manager. So Tom has some information that he's going to go through with you guys today based on an analysis that we did. But just big picture, our group here in Indianapolis manages about 150 clients and 12,000 vehicles in the state of Indiana, both government and commercial clients. So we've put together an analysis, and Tom's going to walk through some of that today and answer any questions for you.
Yep. So today, we're just here to share the findings of the analysis that we put together for the town of Bargersville in effort to earn a partnership and help continue the town's goals to reduce cost, create more efficiencies, and streamline the administrative burdens that are associated with the fleet. What we found by running this analysis, when you looked at the packet that was sent out, there was two that were put together. One includes the entire town, and then the other is just the police department. So the police department, in the effort to partner there, would be 4 initial vehicles to start the partnership in the first year. That would help over the 10-year period to reduce the maintenance expenses 34%, the fuel expenses 38%. It would allow the police department to operate newer, safer vehicles while they protect the people in the streets of Bargersville. The overall 10-year savings for the police department would amount to $316,000 and $316,454. When you look at the big picture of the entire fleet, it reduces the maintenance expenses by 44%, fuel by 20%. It provides the ability for the entire town of Bargersville to operate those newer, safer vehicles with an average sustainable savings of about $80,000 annually over 10 years, which amounts to about 3.1 million. Or sorry, 1.3 million. I apologize for that number. But overall, that is why we're here today, to earn that opportunity to do that with you.
So what we've done with this 10-year analysis is we've tried to paint a picture of what you guys have historically done managing the entire city's fleet, right? We've focused a little bit more on the police department based on some immediate needs for them. But it's really, where do we stand today? How have we historically done things? And what if we do things a little bit differently? What if we take a little bit more proactive approach, sell vehicles, maybe before the wheels fall off, which is what a lot of our government entities historically have done. So, and by tapping into enterprise fleet management's buying power, I'm sure you all are familiar with enterprise rent-a-car, 1.5 million car fleet. All we allow our customers to do is tap into that buying power. We work on your behalf to make sure we're operating the effective life cycle for each vehicle in each department. So that's why police is what we're focused on today. I think that's what you guys wanted to talk about. So those 4 vehicles is where we'd recommend starting to get on that healthier life cycle to achieve the savings that Tom found in that analysis. So we would open it up to you all. I mean, this is very high level. There's some details to the program, different things that we would help out with when it comes to maintenance and fuel and the resale process. But I would like to offer the opportunity to answer any questions that you guys might have based on what we've talked about so far.
Can you walk through the maintenance? You just said we fill out.
Sure. So maintenance-wise, we would rely on local businesses, local shops to take care of maintenance for your vehicles. With electric vehicles and Tesla's particular, it's a little bit differently. You can't run it up to a Valvoline or Jiffy Lube or a local shop like you would a gas burning engine. But we would rely on that network of local shops and dealerships to do the maintenance. We will provide oversight for everything that's done to the vehicle. So you get our pricing for parts and labor, and all that data would flow into a portal where you guys would have access to all the data for your vehicles, which is a key element to this as we get into the partnership. 12 months, 24 months down the road, we can start to make decisions that are data-driven versus more of that gut and feel decision that we see a lot of times with customers who have held vehicles for a long time.
So when you, I guess, equip a police vehicle, so you guys will take care of that portion of that as well in the future?
Correct. So we can handle as much or as little of that process as you would like us to. It behooves you to allow us to, because we can order the vehicle from the manufacturer, handle the logistical process to take it to and from the different outfit vendors that it would need to go to. Could be a different place for graphics and lights and sirens, things like that. You can use the same vendors that you guys use today. We can make some recommendations. The cost would just be passed through. So it could either go into the monthly cost of the vehicle, or you could pay for it separately. But the benefit is we can handle that for you, and you don't actually start paying for the vehicle until you take delivery and can start using the vehicle.
Tyler, do you have anything input on this?
I always have stuff to add.
Yes.
I spend about 20-30% whenever we're building cars. I spend about 20-30% of my time dealing with cars, people, cars individually. The rest of it's done with people. So I like the part of it where they're going to handle a lot of this, running it all over the place, doing all of this stuff that just is. I mean, you got to have two guys to do it. You're gonna run here and then bring him back and then run back up and run back. It's kind of a pain. The Teslas are not going to have a lot of maintenance savings because there's not a lot of maintenance. The only thing we've done thus far is replace a 12-volt battery and tires. On one of them, it's almost 2 years old. So I kind of like it. I kind of like the whole idea with them handling most of that stuff. And at the end of the day, when we bring a car, it seems like we do that often because we go through cars so fast. When we bring a car to trade off, we can't trade it. So now we have to sell it at an auction. They handle that and already have that all planned out for us. So they just pick it up, gone, and
They're getting better than 30 cents on the dollar.
I guarantee you, I guarantee you they are. First of all, because they're selling it before the wheels fall off.
Right.
But which makes it better for us. We don't have the maintenance.
When they pick up the vehicle, take it to be maintenance, you don't have to pay to another officer to do that.
Oh, well, typically we don't have to do that on maintenance, but on maintenance items, the officer just runs it up to the local shop, gets tires put on, gets brakes put on, windshield wipers, whatever the normal kind of stuff is. If it goes to go to Fletcher, it has to sit there 2 weeks. I mean, it never fails. So that's kind of.
So out of the multiple municipalities that you work with, do you work with any of the electric cars for those municipalities?
Right now in the state of Indiana, we don't have any police departments that are on electric vehicles.
There is quite a bit of interest in those conversations. A lot are asking the question, following his example of leading that way. So it is soon to come that more will be on board with electric vehicles.
I think it's Stephanie, somebody that's in Kentucky. They have, Berea, Kentucky has Tesla Model 3s, and they're working with Enterprise, and it seemed to have worked out pretty good after talking to their chief. I mean, it's all in the interest of saving taxpayer money.
Julie, what would you think of it as a fleet for the town?
Yeah, I mean, we've sat in several meetings to try to figure this out, and I'm interested in trying it and seeing if it, obviously there are a lot more details than what they presented here in 5 minutes for you guys. But we're trying to figure out a better way to manage the fleet.
One quick question, Tom. On page 5, it says that annual miles for police cars, 12,100. Is that right?
Pretty close.
I thought we had more than that.
That's pretty close.
All right.
And again, we're looking at averages there, so you may have some that do
Yeah.
more, you may have some that do less. And that's the point of looking at the whole fleet, right? And not just a couple vehicles here.
And so, Julie, you're asking here for.
Well, if you'd like more information,
I mean, the way I look at it, I don't speak for everyone, but the way I look at it is, if it streamlines your job, and you're saying you're spending so much time on this, and Julie, you're just gonna be spending more and more time on it as
and I am.
the town grows. I mean, if that can offload that issue off of you, and, you come to us that this is what it's gonna cost for the service, then, let's talk.
I guess the resale thing is kind of what's always been a sticking point for me.
Yeah, that's huge. That makes a big difference.
I'm not very smart, so.
That's not true.
He's not like that. Oh,
I'm
yeah,
really-
you're so-
No, I don't. I read this and I see it looks great, they want money, you guys handle it, but essentially we're signing up for an annualized lease payment with you guys. It's a flat, relatively flat number, and you guys manage everything for us. So then what costs do we have on top of those lease payments? Like you said, hey, we would have to pay for the increase of the police vehicle. What other costs, or are there any other?
No, it's a good question.
Great question.
So where we make money as a company is there's a management fee that's built into that lease cost there that you pay us monthly. So there's that piece at the end of every lease. If you do choose to do that, we have some clients that self-fund. So it's up to you what you want to do financially. And that's part of what we're here to do, is give you guys that analysis to say, hey, what is best for this entity. Is it to pay cash? Is it to finance? Is it to lease? What is that? But anyway, at the end of that term, let's call it a 48-month lease for a Tesla, we would charge $400 for us to come pick up the vehicle, handle the paperwork, we do the title, everything, handle logistics to go sell that vehicle for you. It would just be deducted from the return that we would get on the back end.
So you're not as much involved in the direct acquisition or leasing of the vehicle as much as you're just managing the process for us. I'm understanding, and then you charge a fee for it, which
Sure.
we're in America, so I believe in capitalism. You should get paid if you do a job, right, and a fair amount. So you're saying, hey, we think we can save this because of our expertise, our buying power, our ability to do all these things that these two don't have the time to do. And this is what you guys do every day.
Right, right. And we are involved in the acquisition process, so we'll make a recommendation each year on what you guys should replace. We'll look at each make, model that's applicable for that job. Let you guys make the decision. Do we go with Ford, Chevy, Dodge, Tesla, Toyota, whatever that may be? We'll order it from the manufacturer, have the equipment installed, whatever fuel program and maintenance program works best for what you guys do, we'll administer that, track the data, and meet with you proactively throughout the year to use that data to make further recommendations and continue to build off of this. So the point is, we're not just here to just sell you 4 vehicles and part ways. It's an ongoing partnership.
So I guess my next question is when are we up to renew for another vehicle? Or where are we in this cycle of our fleets?
Yeah, so I had planned on doing,
Oh, okay.
No.
No.
we had planned on budgetary wise to do 3 this year. And you haven't heard about this, but I was gonna bring the Tesla Model Y to you. I have the data if you want it, it's fine, but that was the plan for 3 this year. If they wanna do 4, if the money's right, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. 6 won't have to, the money's there to do the upfitting and the changeovers and stuff like that. Because we had brought it in from last year to fix the 2 from last year, because this is SUV year.
All right.
So.
Julie, do you have any?
I have to double check all the different departments, if any of them are left to replace.
Yeah.
What are we, with
Do we need
utilities?
So we-
for both? or-
Yeah, so essentially what we asked them to do was they looked at the entire fleet, so across all departments. And then we also asked them to look at the police department on its own, if you wanted to do kind of a pilot program, since their cars are replacing on a regular schedule. So
You can say it more often, it's okay.
we put more miles on them than some of the other vehicles.
Ultimately, the goal would be to manage the entire fleet for the town, correct? But often we see individuals want to engage in a partnership by starting with a phase-in approach. So that's where that request to do just the police department came from, because they have a shorter life cycle on their vehicles. Was, hey, let's look there first and see how we can approach the town and help with the, save taxpayer dollars on that portion of their operations.
So what are we asking for today?
So
Consensus to get more information and proceed?
Today, I was wanting this before you to find out, is this the craziest idea we've ever had, or is this something we want to move forward with?
Well, obviously you brought it to us because there was some sort of need there. So there was that's why we're here.
Yeah, we brought it before you because we think there's some merit in this and think it warrants more investigation and consideration.
And once again, we have to start the program with 4 cars. You have 3 possibly, but does that intermingle the town? If you have 1, would that meet the criteria?
So their recommendation was 4.
Oh, okay.
For the town too.
It's still going to be our decision on how many we can afford
Mhm.
and want to replace. So the very first recommendation they sent me was we were gonna replace 19 vehicles in year 1, and
Right.
that was minor heart attack.
You knew not to come in here, didn't you?
Yeah, I didn't come in here with that, so. So if you would like additional information, if you'd like us to, if there's anything specific that you want to see, that we can give direction and bring back for you, happy to do that.
I mean, I know personally, I'd like to see a breakout of what it's gonna cost and the details. I think I'm in favor of it pending that, right? To see what it'll actually cost and what our legal obligation will be to spend it, et cetera. But
It's an interesting,
yeah, I like the idea. I think it makes sense. We're not in the fleet business, you guys are.
It may be contacting some other
Yes.
cities and towns to see how they feel about it. It's a good idea to do.
What's a good sample time after you do take over sort of vehicles? Is it annual to really know where you're at? You guys do quarterly?
So we, in the initial first year of partnership, for a lot of our clients, we've been offering a monthly meeting. So like a check-in if they would like that with their client strategy manager. But ultimately, it's an annual client review. So that's a yearly meeting that we bring all the data that we've gathered from the past year of the partnership. And we show year-over-year analysis of, hey, how is this impacting? How is this impacting the town of Bargersville? Or
Have you had somebody annually 12 months you've been in the program?
Absolutely.
Would that be some numbers that we can share from another town? Is that?
Well, I was just looking at the references.
Yeah, we've talked to a couple of the communities, but we'll kind of go
I didn't
back
know
to
if they
them
had a
when
quick
it gets
email or
that
something
far.
they could send us to on that, so.
I'm sure we could get you
Yeah.
connected. So plenty of the folks on the list here have been part of the partnership for a while. And we're just wrapping up that season of our year, the annual client reviews. And this is when we start to transition to, as the new model years come out, vehicle world's a little crazy right now, but as new model years start to open up, this is when we start planning for what do we purchase and replace over the next 12 months. So I'll be heading up to Columbia City after this to wrap up their annual client review to see how we did over the last 12 months.
Need to talk to Todd and Julie and
Yeah.
get back with us.
Get back with us.
Absolutely.
Time and manner.
Thank you for
Thank you for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Next, you have the actual CF1 compliance forms for CMP trades for your consideration of approval. You have the 20 pay 21 and 21 pay 22. Both have been filed.
Just as easy, so we just approve the resolution.
Yeah.
Yes. Laura?
Yes. This is a first for me.
That's okay. It's okay. This is pretty easy.
it is for us too.
Yeah. So do you understand the paperwork that you need to fill out?
I do.
Okay. Go.
This won't happen again, I
Okay.
promise.
All right, very good. That's all I need.
That's it, okay.
All right, good.
Thank you, ma'am.
I move to approve CMP trades form 322 and CF1 compliance.
I'll second.
I have first Mr. Will, second Ms. Paul. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed.
That's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Okay. Joe, nothing?
Nothing.
Okay.
Next time should be better.
Yeah. Mr. Wilson, you gotta have something for us.
Man, I don't really have anything. I brought stuff for that conversation, but still kind of pending with that conversation, so.
We just like hear you talk.
I know.
Okay, well, that seems like that's it. Oh, there he is. He is in the building.
Poor Kevin. I'm just not even getting to end.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Would we like to go ahead and review the utility budgets with Mitchell from makertilly? He's got copies here that he's going to pass out.
This is why we have a lumber shortage.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
And this one kind of goes with electric.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that in the?
I will, I'll do that one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any preference in order?
I would just start with whichever.
So I'll start with the electric. You'll see there's two different electric reports. For the electric utility budget, in addition to the utility budget that we did, we actually did the rate study. They pretty much cross over, so I'm going to start with the rate study and go through that first. If you want to turn to page 2, page 2 is looking at historically how the electric utility has been operating. One thing I want to point out there is if you look in 2019 and then also for our test year period, the line that says net operating receipts, you can see there if you're just looking at the operations, you're pretty much breaking even at this point for the electric utility. That doesn't factor in if you do any capital improvements that you're looking at in the study. So right now, the electric utility is basically breaking even. You want to turn to the next page. Again, you can see this in graphical format. The second graph at the top right is going to show you that operating receipts and disbursements. Again, you can see there in the last 2 periods, they're basically a net zero on cash in and out. The graph at the bottom left looks at the cash balances by fund. You can see currently the depreciation fund has a little over $3 million. So that is a pretty healthy reserve right now for the electric utility. And in your operating fund, you have about $578,000. Page 4. If you look at page 4, this is going to show you your current rate. And then as we go farther into the study, looking at the proposed rate, you can see right now, the rate right now for current is a little lower than other communities around. And this does take into effect your quarterly tracking factor that changes as the rates from IMPA are adjusted. So these are an apple-to-apple comparison there.
So we're $5 below the lowest.
Yeah. And yes, from the communities that we were able to compare, electric rates are a little harder to compare because the tracker reports aren't always necessarily public.
Right.
A lot of these communities we work with and have the data in-house and are able to pull that information.
Kevin, didn't IMPA say they're probably definite, pretty much a chance of a rate increase this year for the next increase?
There was a rate increase.
Deficit. Yeah, they lowered the last 2 or 3 years, and then I think they said they were definite.
Yeah, so 2021, you'll see reflected in your purchase power, they did do a rate increase. That's reflected in this.
That is in this.
It is in the rate study, yes.
It's in this one.
The 2020 rates that got adopted by the IRC is reflected in here. Page 5, this gives you an idea of then looking at your cash balances and then a recommended reserve at the top there. Right now, overall, the cash for the electric utility is about 3.8 million. That's broken down by 578,000 in the operation and maintenance fund. Your depreciation fund, a little over 3 million. Meter deposit fund, which is a restricted account, is about 116,000. Developers deposit fund of just under 4,000, and then another developer fund of about 46,000. In the far right column, then you can see your variance. Currently, the operation and maintenance fund is underfunded by about 144,000, but you can see the depreciation fund is overfunded by about 2.6 million. So that money could just be shifted from the depreciation to the operating to fulfill that deficit. The depreciation fund, the recommended reserve we're showing right now is 400,000. And as we look at the capital improvement plan, this is based on the annual amount you fund. That's typically a good reserve to have as a minimum. Now, if you do have larger projects coming up, you will want to have more cash set aside in case, as we know, prices on projects are always going up, it seems. Page 6 is the capital improvement plan looking at 2021 through 2028. And this is based on the information we received from Alpha Engineering. As I stated on the last page, annually, you're looking at about 400,000. And that takes into account a proposed bond issue this year and then potentially one in 2026 to fund a portion of these projects. On page 7, we look at what a proposed financing would look like this year. Overall, you're looking at a bond issue of about $3,475,000. That's taking into account both the project cost as well as the underwriter's discount to sell the bond, and then the legal, bond counsel, and financial advisory fees. On page 8 looks at your test year operating disbursements. So what your day-to-day spending to just operate the electric utility. For our test year period, that was $666,642,900. We did make adjustments to these various line items, adding about $250,000. You can see there the biggest increase there being that purchase power adjustment for interest rates going up. There is a deduct of about $100,000 for the RNC contract. That has fluctuated the last 3 years, so we base that on a 3-year average. The contract that you have with them, a large portion of it is fixed, about a little under $800,000, and then based on the different repairs and maintenance that you do with them, that price will go up. So last year, looking historically, the RMT contract amount did appear to be a little bit of an outlier, just a higher year for some of those repairs and maintenance, so we did bring that down. Overall, in the bottom right, then we're looking at to operate the electric utility $6,941,000. And that'll pull forward when we look at the different alternatives for the rates. Page 9, 10, and 11 then just breaks down each of those adjustments that we made in more detail. I won't go through those unless anyone has questions. Page 12. On page 12, what we did is we took a look at your purchase power bills just to make sure that everything was calculating correctly and that you were charged a set rate. You can see in the bottom right, the $4,955,000 matched up exactly with what was billed. And then we use this then also to adjust your purchase power and then your tracking factor. Page 13, the first column is the kilowatt hours billed during the test year period to your customers. Overall, you billed $6,746,674. And then the second column looks at your quarterly tracking factor, ranging from 0.25 first quarter, 0.29 second, 0.28, and 0.27. Overall, just from those tracking factor receipts, you generated just under $1.7 million. Page 14, then, what we're looking at is your current tracking factor for your most recent quarter. In that second column, you can see your tracking factor had a decrease this last quarter, so it's 0.0229. Based on that tracking factor, we anticipate your revenue then would come down $284,000 for 2021 due to the tracking factor. So page 15, this is where everything comes together. You can get an idea of what it costs to operate the electric utility. That first half, the revenue requirements, At operation and maintenance disbursement, the 6.94 million. Under alternative one, we're looking at financing a portion of that capital improvement plan. So annually, we're saying from cash, you'd spend 400,000 on capital improvements. Line three would be the proposed debt service payment of 233,600. We are assuming right now a 20-year bond with a 3% interest rate. So based on today's interest rates, that would be a little high. We'll have to be conservative on that. Then part of any financing you do for the utility, you have to have a debt service reserve. That would be funded over a 5-year period. So that's the 46,700. And then anytime you look at raising rates, you're going to have to pay additional taxes. So that's the 16,400. And then we deduct some of your non-operating receipts that the electric utility has, such as interest income, contractor fees, penalties, pole rental, and then the RNC payment, which will roll off in 2025. So beginning in 2026, you will not be receiving the 132,500 from the RNC. So overall, the total net revenue requirements would be 7,328,500. Total receipts after normalizing for the tracking factor would be $6,157,900, leaving a shortfall of $1,170,000. That would equate to about a 19% increase under alternative one. Alternative two, what we're looking at is if you did no financing and just tried to pay this through your rates and charges, which is going to cause you to raise rates higher, since financing, you can spread that cost over a longer period. Under that scenario, you'd be looking at about a 31% increase. And yeah, as a reminder, the rates haven't been adjusted since 2005, so it's been quite it's been quite a period of time since then.
Where would that put us?
What's inflation been over that time frame?
Right, averaging about 2.5 every year. If you look at it over a 15-year period.
So 40%.
On the alternative two, so that's alternative two we're talking about here. So this is going to put us at, back to that chart.
If you didn't finance.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did we go 15 years straight even, and now all of a sudden we're seeing almost 20%?
A lot of times electric utilities don't need to adjust rates as often because of that tracking factor. It's almost a small mechanism that's your purchase power is your largest expense. The tracking factor takes care of that. And that'll go up and down depending on what the rates get charged to you. But as you've added things like the utility support, that's a $500,000 add to the electric utility over the last 2 years. That's one of the larger items that got added. And then just the biggest thing is you're able to operate the electric utility right now without doing a lot of capital improvements. But if you are looking at doing these, those are really going to be your driver.
So basically, capital improvements is going to be the factor.
Yeah. Yep. Now, one thing with alternative one, another way, the way you could bring that down is financing more, doing less with cash, or looking at using some of your depreciation fund to fund a portion of those projects. That's going to bring down the annual allowance for capital improvements. That would help your rate as well.
And you may not know this, but I have to ask. On calendar year 2018, we had $1 million above board, right?
For your net operating receipts, that's correct.
How'd we get that?
I'd have to go back and look, but a portion of it could be your purchase power was down that year. And then that would be you can see there your operating disbursements were down about 500,000 that year. It's likely going to be your purchase power was lower from IMPA.
Gosh.
And it looks like your operating receipts were also up about another 500,000.
Cheaper power, we gain more customers. Because I mean,
The thing I just hate is that it's, it's what it is, but I'd rather have a $5 increase this year, $2, and that we're gonna hit with, I mean, it's 20% increase in that.
That's the other thing. When you're looking at doing the rates, you don't have to necessarily do it in one phase. You could do it two-phase increase.
We probably have to, but we've got to raise it.
Unless we want
In my opinion.
for the council meetings.
But we're definitely open to making adjustments. If you wanted to look at financing more, using cash, trying to get that rate down, it's something we can do.
What's the depreciated, what do we have again?
I think it was 3.5 million.
What do we need to we're purchasing or operating, what do we need to be at with those levels?
We usually recommend that you have at least 1 year's capital improvement in your budget at a minimum. That's
400
right now. It's
5 for the.
400,000. Again, though, if you do have larger improvements down the road that you want to save cash for, you might not want to use that fund right now. So it's kind of a trade-off.
We have the meters, including the meters, right? That's almost 900,000 that we need to do. But it doesn't make sense to, in my opinion, it doesn't make sense to not use bond money to do that, with bond money being sub 3. But I don't see how we can continue to operate this at a loss. I mean, I hear what you're saying, Dustin. Hey, you don't want to stop a ratepayer with a 20% increase, but they've seen 0 increase over the last 15 years. That's unrealistic.
They don't care.
They'll hear none of it.
Exactly.
I know, but okay. Well,
And that's done.
move to Indianapolis and you'll pay more.
No doubt.
And they're about to get slapped with another rate increase, right? So.
And Mitchell, they could use bond money to reimburse, because part of the meter project, we've already paid more than half.
Yeah, they can do that.
So that would increase our depreciated cash reserve. So
We're paying out of the cash reserve, and then you're talking about reimbursement bond through bond.
I would bond as much as we can. That would be my opinion.
what do we have, I guess, we have this rate issue then in terms of capital expenses or future large items other than the meters, what else is in this plan? I know you had something 6 years out, but immediately.
Some of the larger ones, there's distribution line improvements. We have
1.1 on that. Do we have any?
automated meters.
Just that, the meters, and then what's the sectionalizing equipment?
Kevin, can you address what that is? Sectionalizing equipment?
Do you have Alpha's report up here for me to look at? I mean, sectionalizing equipment is, I don't know the specifics of the project in here. I haven't seen what it's calling for, but sectionalizing equipment is usually talking about protective devices, using reclosers, things out on the system. I'm not familiar enough with Alpha's report yet to get into the specifics, but.
550,000, that's a lot of sectionalizing equipment, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'll have to look at it and see what specifically is in there.
So is that, Kevin, is that a recommendation from Kevin Killinger? Is that a recommendation from Kevin Shelley, or is that?
So Alpha met with REMC officials and drove the system and came up with this maintenance plan and capital improvement plan. And that was shared with Baker-Tilly to plug in here.
That's how we got, okay.
It's for 2021 year, obviously. Year that we're doing
I think you can correct me if I'm wrong.
this.
None of these projects actually had a.
So anything.
Just the
Major
project we're doing now.
Based on the
Yeah, so a lot of these we
capital
put into 2021.
Yeah, it's gonna be a
and do like a 5% increase every year for the next 5 years instead of 20.
Right. I have no problem with somebody saying, you know, we need to improve your electricity, our lines, we need to increase it 5%. Look what we did for 20 or for 15 years. Not increasing, now we're not just bump you up to massive rates, but we need to.
And I think you might want to, before we make this decision, we probably need to go through the other utilities. Because I think we're going to have that same discussion with some of the other utilities that a resident may have an increase for electric, some other areas, so.
It's gotta go up.
And there's some room to shift. There's a lot of, 2021 is heavy on some of these
I was
projects.
gonna ask, can we push it to
You can
2022?
shift some of these, I mean, we're committed on the meter project. this
Right.
year.
Right.
We can sit down with Kevin and Alpha Engineering and kind of take this page 6 and see what we can move out. And work with that on that.
I think the writing's on the wall, maybe just space it out, use free cash.
We need to put in some money for some, PR. On this
That's
thing.
what I was gonna say too, you know.
Otherwise, it'll be a nightmare for everyone. I mean, we need to have someone professional put together notice that goes out with this, whatever we wind up doing, in my opinion.
Yep.
So I don't know what this lady's funding to take that out of, but. And I know, and then on the project, the road project out here, and we talked about trying to add lights to that.
That is plugged in here, and we've got
Is that
an
in here? Is that
email
security
from
lights?
legal on the specifics of that, so we still need to review that, and make sure that that's doable. I think
That's
that
in this 2021 number?
I was
the 225, I believe it's listed as security lights.
Okay,
secure, that's very good. Thank you.
that's really the,
Yes.
okay.
I think, you know, electrical, nothing else has.
So our homework will be, we'll get with Kevin Shelley, Alpha, and Mitchell, and we'll look at projects and come back with a recommendation on what we feel for the next couple of years, how that increase is going to look like.
Right. I mean, I would like to see 5% over the next few years.
Sure.
Give ourselves some wiggle room and then seeing what we can push for capital projects. So we're not so front loaded.
Sure.
But if we're gonna bond it, I don't know if it's really.
Still does in the sense of not shocking the customer.
Well, no, I'm saying about, I don't know that it really makes that big a difference to push out all the capital improvements if we're using bond money to do it.
Well,
It's more of just, hey, we're gonna slowly increase your rate over the next 5 years.
I don't think that matters if we're bonding or what, we're gonna take depreciation. I just think we have to, the increase has to happen slowly. Okay, we can't, you know.
Yeah, so I think it's
That's what he's
more,
saying.
maybe more detail on the capital improvement side, so that we understand what it is. And then let's go get the bond and then you can phase in this increase.
Okay.
And get a good PR firm to protect you. And
Well,
I've only got one gun on it right now.
right. We'll come back to the next meeting with that.
So I'll move on to the water utility. I know we've gone through each of these in quite a bit of detail, so I'm going to jump to page 7. On page 7, then, the far right column is looking at your 2021 budget for the water utility. I think the only things that have been updated on this page since the last time we met is we worked with Kevin to kind of fine tune the salaries and wages. In the first kind of go around, we were looking at a maximum by employee. After looking at some of the capital improvement projects, we wanted to bring that down to more of a, I'll call it realistic level to make sure that we're showing you more accurate information on proposed increases each year. So overall, the 2021 budget, we're proposing $5,711,247. You can see that's pretty in line with the test year. I'll skip ahead then to.
Is the test year basically this year extrapolated?
The test year is when we look back at historically, but not necessarily a calendar year.
Okay.
So when we had started this, the most recent financials were through the end of October. So our test year would be that 12-month period.
Okay, but it's a 12-month period.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. It's just the most recent 12-month that we had available. Looking at the capital improvement plan. Longer. On page 20. On page 20, this is your capital improvement plan for 2021 through 28. If you look at the items that we've highlighted in yellow, these are what we are proposing to look at doing the financing. You can see for 2021, your total projects at the bottom there is $7,065,000. 2022, it's $10,950,000. 2023, $5.5 million. 2024, about 5.227. 2025, $12,425,000. 2026, $2.7 million. 2027, $2.85 million. And then 2028, it dips off at $970,000. You can see over this planning horizon, you do have quite a bit of proposed improvements in order to try to bring rates down or not increase rates. We're looking at doing a couple different financings. For 2021, 22, and 23, we're looking at lumping those projects in yellow together and doing one larger financing. That's going to help you not have to incur the issuance fees every single year if you're going to do a bond each of those 3 years. That made the most sense.
How much is that total, Mitchell,
The total bond issue there,
for the 21 through 23 project?
you're looking at about 18 million. And then
That's a water tower too.
Yeah.
so to talk about kind of the impact and what we're seeing, and one thing I really want to stress is when we're looking at these utility budgets, we're being pretty conservative with our debt. Again, a higher interest rate, 20 years. You do have the option when you go issue this debt, you can do what's called wrapping it around your existing bonds. And what that's going to do is keep your annual debt service lower. That's going to make your rates lower than what they would be if you just went and issued the bond and just stacked it on top of the other ones. So when we get closer to potentially doing a financing, you'd want to look at, again, like we did on the electric, detailed rate study, looking at options. What would it be if we did a level debt service? What would it be if we did a wrap? And then that's where you'd make your ultimate decision on the rates that you'd want to adjust. So
Is it cheaper to do the wrap without issuance fees than refinance? Would there be, if we wrapped it in?
the wrap is usually going to cost you more in interest costs because you're pushing the principal out.
Right.
Just like if you had your mortgage and you deferred your payments down the road. So there's a trade-off there. You want to keep interest costs or the interest costs low, or do you want to keep rates low for customers? There's always a trade-off there.
We just have to both have them in case. it
Oh,
goes.
yeah.
Right.
Free money.
Cake and eat too.
But yeah, I agree. I think we need to issuance, whatever the next 3 years is, have one issuance, because it's gonna, the fees and things, keep the issuance and just rack up. But this is gonna be boom, boom, boom. It's, these 3 years are gonna go fast with all this water tower improvement. The rates are low now.
But in terms of our rates that we're charging our water customers, when's the last time we looked at them?
Oh, that's going to be a good question.
When's the last time we raised them and when's the last time we looked at them?
So we actually did a large increase back in, I believe it was 2010, and mutiny kicked in.
Yeah.
We left those in place for a couple of years, and then so that was about a 78% increase. And then I believe it was 2012, maybe 2013, we reduced the rates to a 55% increase. So I don't know if that happens very often where you raise and then you lower your rate, but I think we're getting ready to feel the effect of the outcome of lowering that rate back down.
So do you think it's been 8-9 years since we did a rate study?
Likely, yeah. And then if you look, your rate right now for a 4,000 gallon bill, which is usually what they look at as the average, is about $26.20. That's pretty low on most places we see for a water utility bill. We're seeing a lot of places closer to about $30 now. So with some of the rate increases we're showing on this just conservative financing, you'd be looking at about a $3 increase in 21 to 22, another $2 increase, and then another $3 increase.
The per
So in your
4,000.
numbers, you're projecting the increases without us doing a rate study.
Yes, correct.
Well, that's kind of common sense. If they're at 4,000 gallons, we're $4 below. We've been that way for how long? Probably too.
Yeah.
10 years. And that's per 4,000 gallons.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be
I
$3.
have a hard time raising it that significant percentage without having a rate study that.
Back it
to
up.
back it up.
Yeah, we're not proposing you go out and raise rates based on this. You need to do a detailed.
That's my point. My point is that we probably need to authorize a rate study.
Yeah, I agree.
ASAP. And we'll need, that will help us in our bonding.
Yeah.
Trying to come up with our numbers and everything else as well.
Yeah, that's the same thing kind of with the electric. You do a rate study and there'd be different alternatives. What would it look like if you did it this way or this way? And you'd be able to see what that increase in the rate would be and kind of see what you're comfortable with.
I would do the same. If we're gonna do the water, let's do the wastewater too at the same time.
Right, yeah, no, I'm fine with that. But I personally.
Electric was a definite because we can't expand it. I mean, it's
16 years.
Yeah.
But we need, it sounds like, when's the last time we did a wastewater analysis?
I would say probably during that large expansion that we did at the wastewater plant.
The last few years.
Yeah.
I believe that was probably in 18 when you did your last bond issue.
18?
Yeah.
Well, that one's not as out of date. That one's probably pretty good still. So maybe we just do water.
Water.
Is a rate study required though for a rate increase
You should have one as a backup to your rate increases.
in 3 years? Would be too old.
No.
No.
We usually recommend every 2 or 3 years to go and look at your rates. So it wouldn't be old at all. Especially because the sewer does have another large capital improvement plan. With that coming up, you'll want to plan for that as well.
Kevin, where we're at now in 2021, think about almost half the year's up now, we're gonna have to start thinking about if we're gonna grab financing now for these next 3 years. So we need, what's the timetable? I mean, we need to,
Well, if council's okay, makertilly can proceed with the electric financing options for us. Of course, we'll come back with how we're gonna move those projects and make that work. So I would say by the next meeting, we can come back for that. A water rate study would take how long?
We'd have to get updated financials. We'd do it based off of 2020 data. Probably give us a month to get the study done. And then we would come discuss it with you if there's changes. Maybe a couple meetings. Once you have your ultimate rates you would want to do, you would go ahead and do your first reading on the rates, and then you do your public hearing. At the same time, if you're looking at doing a financing, you could be doing your bond ordinance, getting that adopted, and then we'd start preparing bond sale documents. So the whole process is probably going to take 3 or 4 months to get that to the finish line. So
Knowing that we're most definitely gonna need the bond for water, because even if we only approve half of it, we're still talking about 9-10 months. What can we do to get started on that process without having a rate study done? Or is that more of
you're thinking as far as the actual,
the bond attorney question and the David question and the Mitchell question, which is fine. But my take is that we know we're gonna have to bond.
Mhm.
So knowing that, can we get started on that process while the rate study is getting done, so we're not losing out on this interest rate environment?
that's what I'm saying, we
Another
gotta
30 to 60
do
days.
something now. I don't know if it's $18 million on a bond, but we have these water towers going. So, we gotta like, figure out where the rates are, that's what I'm saying, and you have to have a rate study to start that process. How much cash do we have on at the water right now? Kevin, are you, because we can do a reimbursement through the bond, correct?
correct.
So is that gonna hinder you in slowing these projects down, Kevin? That's what I'm,
No, I believe, so water has a pretty healthy balance in the depreciation at the end of 10/31/20, a little over 8.1 million. So you do have quite the reserve in the water.
what is the standard reserve for that, so what we do?
Again, we're showing based on annual capital improvements, about 2 million here as a minimum.
So that's not gonna hinder our projects for 2021 if we approve obviously as well, but I think because of the interest rates, we gotta start looking at the next 3 years.
To answer your question on the getting started on the bond process, they could get a bond ordinance drafted. What they're gonna do in that is have a max parameter, so the highest amount you could issue. Doesn't mean you have to issue that amount. You could put 25 in there and issue 10. Doesn't mean you're actually gonna go out and do 25. It just allows you to do that. And you have no, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you don't have to go out and issue the what's in that ordinance. It's not gonna make you do the other 15 million.
It's the same thing on the police station. Yeah.
That will lock us into the interest rate environment.
Yeah. So it sounds like, in my mind, we need to move forward on bonding. We need to finalize our capital expenditures, because I don't know that we've done that yet, that we're all on board for all the things that are on here. So we need to finalize that and do a rate study. All in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Kevin, can we get to this? I know we already kind of did prioritize this, so, and we will have an admin meeting or a meeting to make sure that, exactly, right. So we'll get the time to do this. We just really need to knock this down and prioritize it, and let's figure it out and start the bonding process. And it's, meaning that everything that trains on the tracks on the next 3 years and somewhat,
Is council okay with them initiating, starting the rate study process for water?
I'll make a motion to start the rate study for the water utility as soon as possible.
I'll second.
I got it first, but Mr. Green, a second, Ms. Falls, all in favor, raise your right hand. Aye, none opposed. Okay, there you go, Kevin.
Thank you.
That's how it works.
Move on to wastewater.
Yeah.
It's really down there.
So on wastewater, I'll start on page 7 as well. So for wastewater, the total budget for 2021 then is $1,632,862. And then turning back to the capital improvement page, which is shown on page 19. So for the wastewater, not quite as large as the water capital improvement plan, but you do have some projects here in 21 and 22 that we're proposing to be bonded. Overall, we're showing a bond funding of about 6.5 million there for 2021 and 22 projects. And then you'll see out in 2024, there is a larger project that we're proposing to do a bond issue. And right now we're showing using some cash to knock that down as well.
Are you projecting increases on this outside of what we already have?
Yeah, so right now we're showing increases of 5% in both 2022 and 2023. And then we do have some increases of 8% in 24 and 25. And that's really leading up to the second bond issue, being able to have adequate debt service coverage to go out and issue that bond. Again, like similar to the water and electric, you'd want to look at doing a complete rate study, looking at different alternatives.
What's our cash? Looks like you got 3 million to be put into place on cash. So what's our-
I believe the depreciation is a little over 6 million.
So 3 of that you're proposing.
All right, a little over 7 million actually.
Kevin, same thing, is it's prioritized and
We need to have the same meeting. Did the previous rate study call for increases in 21?
We probably didn't look at that far if we were looking back in 2018. We're normally not doing a long-term horizon on our rate studies. It's more of an immediate. These utility budgets, we usually try to give you kind of a longer view, but it can be a little harder to project out in the future if you, especially a community like yours with growth, that's going to be something that's going to be hard to gauge maybe 5 years down the road, how many customers you've added. So rate studies are really more of a snapshot in time to give you what the next couple of years you'll need.
So that we need,
Be done.
so we need another one.
Yeah.
Another
Because if
one.
it's only 2 years, and the last one was done 18, is that what I heard you say?
We're gonna,
You have some capital.
we have some capital stuff we have to go over.
Yeah. I'd say you go ahead and do the raise.
How much, I guess we never asked this, but approximately how much will we spend on the rate study?
I'll get a ballpark estimate, probably looking 15 to 20,000.
That's it.
Gotta have to
Well,
know.
if we're gonna raise rates, we have to do it. Sounds like we already are proposing it.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve makertilly to do a rate study for the sewage works.
Have a motion, second, have a second, Mr. Bill. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mitchell.
Yeah, we're definitely dedicated to getting these projects done. If that doesn't show you, we're moving forward.
We've made some progress. Your last meeting or 2 meetings ago, council approved engineering work, so we're moving along on some of the stuff. Appreciate that, and we'll get a meeting set up with council to go over the capital projects for both utilities with all stakeholders and go from there.
I'll get an email sent out. We might want to dedicate a little bit of time instead of, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, we might need to do it on a
Need to dedicate more than we did.
Council day.
non-council day.
This stuff's important, these capital projects, obviously, the council.
Yep.
Know that, so.
Thank you. Next is Kevin Shelley is here to present an update from the electric utility from an operation and maintenance standpoint.
Well, thank you for your time today. And I think you guys have the packets for me, the statistics. This is actually through March 22nd. It's not quite full first quarter because these numbers were originally pulled. I was going to attend last month and then I got bumped to this month. So, but the numbers haven't changed much with the final 9 days of the quarter in there. As far as the statistics go, it's right in line with what we usually do with you guys. There's nothing in there that stands out to me. Happy to answer any questions about any of those you do, but I don't really want to take time to go through them line by line unless you guys want to. The outage statistics, one, I need to make a correction. The sheet that's in here, the numbers you have are all already, we're off to a good start in 2021. Somehow we've avoided any major outages. But actually, the numbers are better that's in there. If you look up at the top of the report, you guys show consumer hours of 164.8. That was actually only 20.8, not 164.8 for through March 21st. And that affected some of the other numbers. What happened there? We had you guys only had 7 outages for the first quarter of 2021 on your guys' system. One of those, our dispatcher made a mistake. And when I was reviewing ready to come in this morning, I caught it. There was one 4-person outage that it came in on a Sunday, so our on-call dispatcher took care of it. He forgot to restore it in our outage system. When our regular dispatcher came in on Monday, she put in the proper time of the restoral, but forgot to change the date back to Sunday. So it was showing it as a 25-hour outage instead of a 1-hour outage in the system. So that's what kind of adjusted those numbers down to where they ended up. With those adjusted numbers, the SAIDI in here, that's your average outage time per consumer. It's actually for the first quarter, your average consumer saw less than 1 minute of outage time. And then the CAIDI, which is our average response time, that's the number that really stood out to me. I couldn't believe it was taking us 5.5 hours to respond to an outage on your guys' system. When we adjusted that one down to being a 1 hour outage instead of a 25-hour outage, it actually went down to about a 41 minute response time is what our average response time was for outages on your guys' systems. Typically, I give you an update of the large outages on your system, but there was no large outage on your system for the first quarter. So you guys saw 7 total outages. One of them was actually not an outage. It was the customer called in an outage, and it was their breaker that was the issue on their side. We had two of the cutouts, which I know this is actually something that's called out in Alpha's maintenance report that we need to look at over the next 10 years. But there's 2 of the cutouts, which are basically the fuse holder devices for the fuses that are out on the system. We're going through a process on our system of replacing all those because there was a batch of them that were put in that the porcelain cracks over time and the moisture gets into them. So then when it rains, when the moisture goes into them, they go boom and they blow apart. There's no good way to track on the system which ones those are. So like we're actually going through our entire system, and we've been working on it for years trying to replace all those on our system. I know one of the recommendations that's in the report from Alpha is to do the same thing on your system and replace all those porcelain and put into the polymer cutouts to stop that. But there were 2 bad cutouts on your system, 2 squirrel related outages, 1 outage that we couldn't find a cause, and there was 1 outage where a box truck caught a phone line and it shook the lines hard enough that it caused an outage on the system that we had to go replace. So that was all the outages that was on your guys' system for the first quarter of the month. So I'd like to take full credit for it, but there's a lot of luck involved in that too. So hopefully we can keep that up for the whole year, but I wouldn't count on it. We'll get hit by something somewhere along the way here. But so that's kind of the first quarter status report for your guys' system. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Are the squirrels okay?
Unfortunately not.
Fatality.
When it's a squirrel outage, it never ends well for the squirrel.
So that last pie chart, it says 90% animals, that's on ours, or is that like a?
That's for the first quarter on your system, but like I said, the outage that had the extended time was a squirrel outage, so that pie chart isn't exactly right. But still, with 2 of them being squirrels, it's probably still close to 50% of the outage was animal related for the first quarter. Thank you.
Next item I have is with materials going up on a routine basis here. I would like to come to council every so often to request the purchase of water meters at the factory pricing. We've reviewed our tap-in paid permits to try to get an idea how many meters that we're buying off the shelf. And hearing department has advised that this will be a good start for us. So kind of looking for not to exceed $63,288 to purchase meters. New customers, basically. Most of these are for new customers.
This will get us through what month? You project.
This is I believe we're looking at next 6 months.
Is it 36 meters, is that?
It'll be 36 meters a month that will be delivered to us.
Looking at our budget, looks like we did have budgeted.
9 months worth.
Right.
Yeah, is it a storage issue or?
It's not, it wouldn't be a storage issue. If council is willing to look at that, we can run some numbers, see what it takes us through the year. We have meters right now, so this is not a emergency item, so we can come back at the next meeting to see what it'll take to get us through the end of the year and ask for not to exceed for that amount.
Should we do that?
How long is this pricing good for?
That's what should they?
Yeah.
They might give us a better.
Well, if we ever, year's worth.
We can ask that, yeah.
With the option to
That's what I was,
come back and amend for, if you can get a better deal on 9 months or a year. Well,
Sure. Yep.
this deal goes into those meters.
I don't know.
It seems like everything's disrupted, from materials to distribution to shipping.
And they're willing to lock the price in and then deliver over the next few months.
Right.
I'm sure if we approve this by and you call, we can change it to the larger if we're saving more money. Yeah, on the 9 months or the year?
A year.
Okay.
I have to see what they're gonna give us for pricing.
I can bring that to the next meeting.
We have.
It's not gonna make a difference,
Right.
but I think, I would like to hear their number.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, they're not saying, hey, you gotta let us know this is only good through next date.
Right. And would council be willing, if we were to look at this at a rolling year period, so covers through from a year from the next council meeting, get us through into the next year? Are you guys okay with that option?
I mean, if it's within the budget, which it would be.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not if it's double, but if we can get the pricing breaks, then.
And you already ordered the first 36.
So we basically right now order as tap-ins are paid. So we're doing these one-offs every so often, which is more legwork on our part, right? Invoicing from delivery to all the stuff that goes with buying meters and installing meters. If we can start getting them on a bulk shipping schedule.
So this says its pricing is for monthly shipments at 36 for 6 months. That's 36 meters per month over 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so basically,
Is this for new meters?
Mhm.
Is it all new meters? How this versus our permits?
We've looked at this and it's pretty close. We have a lot of tap-in paid service orders that are pending. So a builder will come in, pay for the permit, pay for their meter all up front, and then of course utilities, we're not involved until a little bit later in the stage. When the house is ready for a meter. I've ran the numbers twice because I thought 36 was actually low, but it's not that far off actually. And I don't see housing slowing down anytime soon, so. There may be an opportunity if we were to commit to a year worth of meters of maybe getting a lower cost, so we'll look into that.
Yeah, maybe look into that. Get to it right away.
We will put that on the next agenda. The next item is more of a reflecting in the minutes. So when the time is right and we are ready to initiate this early right of entry fee for Speedway, I want to make sure that counting has reflected in the minutes that we're authorized to spend up to $10,000 for early right of entry. David's been working on this quite a bit. I don't know if there's an update on that. I know.
This is for the condemnation. Somehow through all this, it never, I don't know, somehow didn't get communicated to the right people at Speedway to accept this, but somehow their legal counsel found out that we had offered before condemnation $10,000 for right of entry to clear trees. We were advised to make that offer through their legal counsel again and provide confirmation that it was accepted. Now we're just working on the paperwork because the county is now involved because they're trying to get right of entry as well. So Speedway wants to do a universal right of entry for us in the county. So we're just finalizing the paperwork.
Are the legal fees on this from David, are they reimbursable through NDOT?
I'll have to check with NDOT on that. I don't know off the top of my head. There's a good possibility because we're doing some legwork for them, so.
Would you talk to, who would you be talking to?
Most likely Steve, yeah.
Fleming?
Probably MERS, I would.
You're asking, can we preemptively?
Well,
Is that what you're asking?
we would make a motion to allow Kevin and David to finalize the right of entry with Speedway for the I-69 project for an amount not to exceed $10,000.
Is that a motion or?
I'll second that.
Okay. I have a motion on Mr. Greenwood. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Thank you.
Did you get that, Becky?
Thank you.
Okay.
Next item is to authorize purchase of training materials from the American AWWA. So this is primarily for water plant and water distribution employees. This is a combination of books and DVDs and so forth that I would like to purchase. This will help with as employees go in for their licensing and distribution licensing. This will help with that training, and it's something we'll use for years. We'll kind of create a library, if you will, of training materials, and this is going to be a good start.
What do you get?
Let's see. So this will be just some of the items. It's going to be water distribution, grade 1 through 2, literature, some DVDs on filtration, disinfection, sedimentation, and so forth with our water plants. That's the lion's share. It's about $2,600 for that DVD set. And I didn't click the view more button here on your PDF, but there's some more DVDs that's included with that was not in the screenshot here. They are including sales tax, which is almost $200, and I'm trying to work with the organization to remove that as we're tax exempt. So it's taking some time to get our account properly marked with them.
Count for continuing ed or their actual, they get some.
This would not count towards, so if an individual has a license and they need to get some education, this would not count. You know, those typically are a seminar that you show up to, or, you know, there's an official sign-in process that would actually count towards your hours. So they would not be able to use this for that. They would still have to attend webinars or when we start having in-person trainings again or conferences, they'll have to obtain their training through that.
Any other questions?
So I guess how are the employees going to use this? Do they just, or is it going to be on their own, or?
So an example, water plant employees would be able to read or watch these during shift. So they do have some periods in between testing that they would be able to take advantage of some of this training. And I know on the distribution side, we've got an employee that would like to take his test and get a license. And I know he's willing to, once we buy the materials, he's willing to study outside of working hours for this.
Any other questions? Does anybody, you want to get more information? Want to make a motion?
Move to approve the American Water Works Association training materials, amount not to exceed $3,500.
I have a motion by Mr. Doyle. Do I have a second? I have a second by Mrs. Moore. All in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. I believe item F we're removing from the agenda. Item G is a memorandum of understanding for radio communications. So during our last snow event, the riding with the guys and helping with snow removal, saw that there's a need for improving our radio communication. So I spoke to Julie about this and was coming up with ideas on how we can improve our two-way radio communications. And the original thought was to buy some equipment and essentially install a repeater on our Kinder water tower out by the Bantam football field. And when I met with the sales consultant, he gave me some information that another opportunity. So instead of us investing in something like that, we might be able to work out a deal with the school system because they went through an upgrade and have some capacity on their system. And if the school was okay with it, there's an opportunity for us to utilize their towers. So essentially, anywhere a bus would drive has coverage, which would certainly cover our snow map. So this is an MOU between us and the school system to engage with programming their system and slowly outfitting our vehicles with radios that are compatible with this and would take care of our coverage issue from here on out. So this is a simple agreement that the radio manufacturer or sales company provided. David has done some small tweaks to it, I believe. And the school system is open to this still. So checking with council to see if this is something that you would like us to pursue.
How much do those radios cost?
So each radio is about $500.
How many cars or how many plows will we have utilizing those?
Julie, how many plow trucks do we have? Probably at least 5, I think. At least 5 or 6 vehicles.
Haven't had David look that over, because there's some stuff in this memorandum. Have you seen that? Okay. Anything on it, any input?
I added some stuff to it.
Oh, so you were, okay. Did we do the memorandum, or they did it?
They did it,
too.
I
Okay.
fleshed it out a little bit. I tried to keep it, not get too overly complicated.
Okay.
Yeah. For us
I've
to,
gone crazy on it, but.
On number 2, David, number 2, it says the town shall be responsible for initial programming updates, allocate radio talkers to the town. Any future radio system programming updates specifically town shared use of the radio system or responsibility of the town.
Pay the associated costs.
Right, so how do we determine the associate, so if Center Road says we're updating to X system, let's say it's some sort of crazy, it's gonna cost us $20,000 to upgrade to that, we're responsible for $20,000. No,
No,
the school system's responsible
if the
for it.
school wants to upgrade it to meet their needs, they have to pay the cost. If there's an upgrade that's required because we're overloading the system, we have to pay for that.
Gotcha, okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, and there's an out to, like, if they come to us and say, hey, you're overloading the system, it's gonna cost us $20,000, we could say, no, we're done, we cancel this MOU, see you later.
Okay.
Can we still use the system with our radios if we?
If we do that, then I would think.
so we would have to, so put in a repeater system for us is just under $30,000. So if we decide to no longer share their system and want to be on our own system, then we'll have to put up a repeater. Radios would have to be reprogrammed. We'll have to change the radios, but we'll have to invest in that infrastructure, which is about $30,000.
Okay, so that's the other question I had. So if they come to us with some crazy response, then we can say, well, it'll cost us X. We can go off that system, gotcha.
Yeah, number 3, leave number 3. The second sentence.
These are off.
Last sentence of 5 is basically the
That's
tag
nice.
out.
But how many, you said 20, how much?
500 radio.
Maximum
of 6 at 500 radio, so let's say we
$3
add,
grand.
we add another 2 plows over the next 5 years, it'll be aided, so we.
And it is my goal to eventually outfit all utility vehicles with this radio system. So we're going to slowly phase that in, at $500.
How much capacity does Cedar Grove have left?
They put in a pretty healthy system, so I was reassured that.
It's not gonna be running out anytime soon.
Right.
So we're gonna spend $500 a vehicle going forward for this radio.
The initial cost of the radio, and then these radios have a 10 to 15 year lifespan. So my plan was to take care of the street department, take care of the snowplow vehicles, get the things up and running, and then I'm just slowly going to add a radio at a time to the utility vehicles. The radios are a good key. So some of our larger vehicles, and that's where Bluetooth comes in handy, but as you're traveling with a backhoe or a trailer or whatever, it's much safer to use a radio to communicate with staff versus trying to find your phone or say, hey, Siri or whatever. So I think it's a good safety investment to slowly outfit all of our fleet with this. We're going to start with.
You're separate, right? You have your own.
No.
You don't need any of that.
No.
You don't want a third radio in your vehicle?
Council members pay for it, can they put one of those radios in there?
Mhm.
I'd love to.
Mhm.
10-4.
I got one at the house.
So Center Grove already operates their system, and we just kind of talk to them about doing, or do they come to us to share the cost?
We use the same radio vendor between the
Okay,
two.
so that's how.
So that's how we found out about this, and then speaking with Dr. Long and their chief of police, they were open to the idea, but we felt we needed an MOU between the two organizations to make this.
So they won't be able to hear our frequency, and we can't hear their
The only
frequency.
way that can happen is if we both agree to the special program that would allow that, and right now there's no need for that. I'm sure they don't want to listen to plowing Irma Street or something going on up there.
Our only cost, basically, if we put too much traffic through, we'll have to upgrade, but they're paying for everything except our radio.
Right.
No.
No more questions.
Julie, you have fleet vehicles,
So these are the street vehicles are
the primary,
what we're talking about on this, yeah.
oh, so utility two, or
Eventually, yes, but we're starting
we're
with,
just talking about street vehicles right now. Does everybody know that?
Those would be the first ones that would be
Okay.
impacted, is they're the primary ones plowing.
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding for radio communications with Center Grove.
Second.
The first, Ms. Moore, second by Ms. Moore. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed.
thank you.
Make sure Mr. Doyle has his spare radio.
Are we discussing item H?
You will get, talk to Kim
Okay.
about that, if you could.
And then David needs a little more time on media discussion, so we need to move that off the agenda, and that's all I had.
Okay. Anything, thank you, Kevin, we appreciate it. Anything else? Anybody? Mr. Greenwood? Okay. Do I have a?
Move to adjourn.
I have a. We are adjourned. I will say.